Okay. I'd like to call to order the East Lansing City Council regular council meeting of Tuesday, October 7th, 2025 at 7 p.m. Could we have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Altman.
Here.
Councilmember Meadows.
Here.
Councilmember Watson. Mayor Pro Tem Singh.
Here.
Mayor Brookover.
Here. Could we have a motion relative to the agenda, please?
Yeah, I'd like to move approval of the agenda. I do have one addition to the board commission appointments. I would move to add. I'll move to approve the agenda with one change, which is to add the name Michaela, Makayla, Cribbs, Kribs, as an appointment for a full term to the Downtown Management Board.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The motion, or the agenda as amended, passes unanimously. Excuse me. We have before us minutes of the special meeting of 23 September 2025 and the regular council meeting of 23 September 2025. Do we have motions with regard to those minutes, please?
Move approval of both sets of minutes.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We now come to the section of the agenda relative to communications. Item 2.1, all written communications received by the council are posted on the online agenda packet. Item 2.2, we have communications from the audience. I have several slips. When I call your name, would you please approach the microphone and tell us what you're thinking? Amanda Morgan, please.
Hello, thank you. I'm Amanda Morgan. I am on the East Lansing Independent Police Oversight Commission. I'm here tonight to talk about a couple of things. As I was leaving work tonight, I saw on the news that the Greater Lansing Women's Center is asking for the resignation of the chief, which is really, I just wanted to put that out to the city council right now. That's really sad to see. I know as a commissioner, I really appreciate being on the commission, and I've asked to be on for 3 more additional years so that I can continue to help kind of be an intersection between the police in the city and the people of the city, because there has been a growing conversation that's been happening, and I've been honored to be a part of the commission while it's been happening, but this conversation's been happening long before the commission started. And regardless of if you were to wish away the commission tomorrow, the conversation would continue to be happening, and it's one that's escalating. And I only say that because it's really important that this commission continue to remain, it continue to have tools, resources, and power to create and a table so we can continue to have genuine and sincere conversations about change that needs to happen. With that said, it really is a shame that we're getting more news. It's ironic that as we talk about ordinance changes, we are getting more news coming out about people being upset about use of force. It's more negative advertisements, I think, in the last few months than I've seen since I've been on the commission. So, but I just want to thank you for the opportunity to be on this commission. You're going to hear from our other commissioners who have more things to say about stuff. But this commission is very important to have. And that it's one that has to have some kind of power to make the table an important space to be. And I cannot stress that enough. And finally, just because I want to say it out loud, in honor of Indigenous Day, the City of East Lansing occupies the ancestral, traditional, and contemporary lands of the Anishinaabe, Three Fires Confederacies of Ojibwa, Ottawa, and Potawatomi peoples, land ceded in the 1819 Treaty of Saginaw. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Dr. Edsel.
Good Good evening. I'm Kath Edsel. I am also a member of the East Lansing Independent Police Oversight Commission. I am speaking on my own accord and not as a representative of the commission, however. 5 years ago, under a mostly different council, police chief, and city manager, I and many others stood at a similar podium to demand answers and accountability for an incident that involved a young black man having his face rubbed back and forth on the pavement, debriding large areas of skin on his face, while being arrested for filming the arrest of his friend. Shortly thereafter, the department conducted an investigation and found no evidence of inappropriate use of force. The deputy chief, who delivered this report, neglected to mention that the same officer had used the same tactic on an elderly black man only weeks before, who was being detained for not using his left turn signal while exiting Meyer. The community did not appreciate being gaslit by the police department, and what ensued led to the departure of the attorney and the chief. Today at 4:30 p.m., WLNS released surveillance video footage from Dave's Hot Chicken regarding the incident that occurred just outside the restaurant on August 23rd. Hopefully each of you has viewed it by now. The chief has allegedly had this footage all along, and yet chose only to release to the public via press release the body-worn camera footage that fit her narrative that what occurred was a criminal assault that justified the actions of the officer who indiscriminately and against manufacturer recommendations pepper sprayed at least 3 people directly in the face. The chief's subsequent press release disparaged one subject by claiming he was held until he was sober, when in fact he was released shortly after being taken into the station because he was sober all along, and further supported her narrative that the individuals were engaged in a fight when in fact they are friends, and one bear hugged the other to de-escalate a verbal altercation. Disorientingly, her press release ends with the statement, "We recognize the public's concern regarding use of force incidents. Transparency and accountability are priorities for our agency, and we are committed to keeping the community informed as appropriate." That coming despite withholding the video that countered the claims she was making. But the issue is much larger than the chief hiding evidence from the public and lying about it. Her comments about gangs coming in from the outside and her repeated othering of people in East Lansing with statements like, they aren't MSU students, they don't live here, and of course the very public statement that equated black and brownness to criminality, show a chief absolutely unable to lead a force in a city like East Lansing. But race is not the only area where she has limited life experience or learned experience with. She signed off on an investigation of a complaint filed by a transgender unhoused woman who the investigator dead-named and called he/she throughout the report. When questioned, she had little or to no comprehension of the offense. More than once, she defended the actions of her officers when they seriously mishandled interactions with individuals in mental health crisis or a person with developmental disabilities, and was interim chief when an unhoused black man was eating breakfast in a McDonald's and was last to leave after being sold his breakfast due to a previous complaint. While leaving, as directed, the interaction devolved into demands for his ID, which led to him being tackled and tased. I include all of this because her comments equating blackness to criminality is not a one-off, it's a core belief. There are individuals on this council who have at different times expressed a willingness to make East Lansing and in turn the police force a more welcoming and inclusive place by addressing issues like institutional racism, homophobia, etc. This chief is not aligned with that objective. It is possible that with deep reflection and years of reading, writing, and serious anti-racist capacity building, she could get to a place of understanding the harm she has caused. But she is not there, and in these critical times, we don't have the luxury to wait for her to do the necessary work. Thank you.
Thank you. Carrie Freeman.
Good evening, Council. Thank you very much. As you know, my name is Carrie Freeman. I'm working with the Ball Lines in Harbor Bay on the Howard. And I'm just here tonight to invite you all to the community forums that we've been putting together. We just had one on September 30th at Foster Coffee. It was great. It was well attended. I know we have all of you on the email list, and we would just love to see you there. I know that night you all had a conflict. Our next one is going to be October 15th, next Wednesday. We are going to try to do these bi-monthly as well. They're an opportunity to talk to the community, to collaborate on the potential development, the Howard, that we're all really excited about. We'd love an opportunity to talk to council about what they'd like to see, how to do this, and any questions that you have. So I'm just here to invite you, and also anyone in the room, if you're interested, to attend as well. We would love to have anybody in the community join us on October 15th next week, probably at Foster Coffee at 6 o'clock. There is an email that will continue to be going around to anybody who is interested in these community forums that are coming up. And if you would like to get on that email list, if you're not already, my email is carrie@wedolawinlansing.com. You can email me and I'll make sure that you are put on that list and you know when they will all be held. Thanks, Council.
Thank you. Harold Pope?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Harold Pope. I'm with the NAACP. What a difference this brand new video makes in understanding what exactly happened. Disgusted but not surprised by what I saw in that video. A young man, peacefully trying to help avoid a situation, was assaulted. The officer that engaged with the spray did not assess the situation before deploying the spray. Instead, he just walked up and sprayed the young man directly in his eyes at what should be an unlawful distance. We've demanded transparency, and now we are demanding accountability. That execution is not taught in the academy. We've been here before, and we are now demanding that leadership take a position to fix this behavior or be replaced. You cannot continue to be overly aggressive when interacting with blacks or other minorities. I don't care where you are. Governing a city through lawsuits is not an answer. Fix this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pope. Ernest Connerly?
Good evening. I'm Ernest Connerly, member of the LEPOC and a resident, but I'm speaking on my own behalf. It is deeply disheartening that with the exception of Councilwoman Watson, silence has been the response from our city council about recent events. Silence from those who were elected to represent all of us in the city of East Lansing, not just a few. What the police chief said was not just a poor choice of words, it was racially charged and inflammatory. And it was the second time that she's made inflammatory public comments against a group of people, first being the oversight body because we didn't agree with her, and now directed towards people who do not look like her. Comments that have made the news, embarrassed the city, and hurt the people she's sworn to protect, and we have not heard nothing from our elected leaders. Her comments were akin to the ones we heard from our current president that equated the black folks that live in Baltimore as criminals. Such words are not careless slips. They are dangerous declarations that echo a long history of treating black people as inherent criminals and using that falsehood to justify force and control. And I can give you a history lesson if you would like. And yet, once again, the community received nothing more than an empty apology, no plan, no accountability, no transparency, just words. And so I say if BIPOC people are not welcomed in the city of East Lansing to eat, to shop, or to enjoy the downtown area, because the majority of the council has not spoken up about this and believes that our presence contributes to an increase in crime, then the problem is much bigger than our chief. The problem is systematic. Silence, in my view, reads as agreement. Have the courage to just say it to us, and you can own it. But do not subject us to her fear-mongering stereotypes and racial undertones to justify increasing our police budget or hiring more officers. Do not use us as scapegoats for what we see as failure of leadership and lack of operational control, while simultaneously collecting our money to support the economics of this community, which you claim we don't live in. It's disappointing, though, but not surprising, that the city manager has not shown an ounce of courage or leadership through any of this. His direct report is the chief. She made offensive and dangerous remark twice now, and yet there has been no follow-up, no accountability, and no effort to repair. At this point, it is not hard to believe that he stands in quiet agreement, just as the council, with her words. His response to me and several other people via email has been shallow at best, at worst full of excuses and void of accountability. In education, I teach my students that apologies are always good, but change is better. There has been no change, no demand for growth, or no public plan to rebuild trust, just silence. In my view, under Chief Brown's leadership and ultimately under his leadership, the department has only gotten worse. It has become less accountable, less transparent, and less trusted. In fact, I had slightly more trust in the previous leadership, including the former interim chief, and that speaks volumes to where we are today. And let us not forget, he chose her. He appointed her as chief when there was two way more qualified candidates, individuals with many years of experience who met every qualifications listed in the posting that he had put out, while she did not. So the decisions that she makes and everything that she does is his to own, and shows his priorities for his administration. I have no trust in the chief leadership, and I have no trust in the city manager's ability or willingness to hold his direct report accountable. I expect from our leaders courage and integrity and follow through. You know, my mom taught me as a child that when harm is done, you should say you're sorry. But you do not just say sorry, you make it right. You change your behavior and you rebuild trust. It is evident that the city manager is not going to require his chief to change her behavior to make it right, because this is not the first time she's made inflammatory comments. This is what leadership is supposed to look like, but right now, East Lansing Police Department does not have any. This silence is loud, the excuses are tiring, and the harm is real. It's time for accountability and real change. Thank you.
Thank you. Lori Dunlap.
Good evening. I'm here to talk about a particular ordinance that has to do with parking. Ordinance number 1370, specifically section 44-41-1, the issuance of permits, 8.133. This has to do with item number 5, which is the temporary permits that can be issued into neighborhoods that have parking by permit only. And up until last year, we were able to get undated temporary permits as stated in this section. And when I went to get them this year, I was told no, they had to be for a specific date, and I was limited to the number I could have, and I could only get them 1 week. Like if it was for a Saturday, I had to come on a Monday, was the earliest I could come to get permits for that following Saturday. So that's a change in how it's being applied from when it was instituted in 2016, where I could just go and say, I live on Chesterfield Parkway, I just need some temporary permits. I would be given a stack of them. They would write down the beginning number, the ending number, no specific dates, and I could just use them throughout the year as needed. So something has changed, and I guess I was not aware of it, and I would like to know why it was changed. Well, I think I know why. Somebody was selling permits, but why should all of us be held to something that only one person violated, the issuing of the temporary permits? So I would like that to be looked at again and to possibly reinstate, making it easy for residents to have a number of people coming to their house on any particular day or weekend. Thank you.
Thank you. Taste and Sardar.
Good evening, Tasin Sardar, 2822 Market Road, East Lansing. It was in the last council meeting that my fellow commissioner from the Human Rights Commission, Karen Honey, and I made a statement here imploring the council to reconsider the proposed changes to the Police Oversight Commission. Today, the local news, as some of the previous citizens commented, released footage of a recent incident, and the accompanying headline was very disheartening to see that it contradicts the East Lansing Police Department's narrative about the incident. I hope you will use this as an example as to why we need more checks and balances and not weaken whatever is there in place right now. Also, I'm not qualified to judge the police chief's words and actions. However, after the Human Rights Commission meeting last evening, I felt compelled to come and relay the feedback here. The sentiment of the people who spoke out, they felt they were deeply hurt by her words, and they felt that her apology was not sincere. So I hope that we can use this not only as a teaching moment, but actually take this a little more seriously as to the need to be more careful in choosing our words, to de-escalate situations. That's something the police department should be cognizant about. And as some of the previous citizens commented here, as a welcoming city, let us not otherize other people who come to visit our city, guests and visitors, particularly the young students and anyone who is coming to visit our city for that matter. So let us live up to our ideals that we uphold our city's values to be. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Nadja Sellers?
Thank you to the council for having me. For the record, I want to say I have met some amazing East Lansing police officers, black and white. They're not all bad. But the city of East Lansing needs change, and they need it now. My mother would always tell me there's two things you never take back: the words that come out of your mouth and the bullet that comes out of your gun. Well, it's too late. Chief Brown, you need to go. Mr. City Manager, you can look at me because you've largely remained silent. But I'm going to look at you and tell you, I beg you to resign. And I beg the chief to resign. Save this city. Save yourself. Those officers also need to go. That change is needed to heal this city. The leadership Chief Brown displayed is dangerous. Not just to her officers, to the community, to visitors to East Lansing, and to the badge. Chief's MAGA views are clear. You released my son's video. Yes, Mr. City Manager, that's my son on that Dave Chicken video. You released his full name to the press. You shared only the police body cam footage prior to even his attorney viewing it to the press. To justify injustice, not the Dave House Chicken security footage, which you had in your possession. That clearly shows your officers committing a crime against my son, deliberately trying to blind him. Then you tell the press my son was a drunk when he blew sober. You called my son a criminal when he has not even had his day in court. He's never been arrested. He's never been suspended from school. He has never had a fight in his life. The chief had a choice between full transparency and decency. But instead, she chose to be dishonest, to cover up the crime of her officers. And your attempt to destroy my son's name and ruin his employment opportunities in the future and try to derail his life without any concern at all. But let me tell you, and look at me, it will fail. What you did by hiring this chief and putting her in this community, and what she has done is cruel, it's reckless, and it's downright evil. And you are an embarrassment, Chief, to the city of East Lansing and those who serve under you. I've asked to meet with you, but I'm bold. You refuse to meet with me, so I guess you're not. Those who serve under the chief, who selected the chief, shame on you. My son is a 21-year-old senior at a major university. He's an entrepreneur who had a business right here in East Lansing for 2 years. That young man is a philanthropist. He's a kid without a record until somebody arrested him unfairly. You can't find one person anywhere in the world to say a bad thing about my son. Your police department has a history of getting away with discrimination and unlawful arrest, but not this time. Not this kid. Not my kid. And not on my watch. Look at me, Mr. City Manager, because I mean business. I forgive you, your officers, and the chief. You know why? Because God's going to judge you. And when he does, I will not be praying for him to have mercy on any one of you. Now, I'm sure those of you looking at me, I'm sure some of you guys are really, and ladies, good people. I just haven't seen it. You stayed so silent when your chief make reckless, discriminatory, inflammatory, MAGA comments to the press. How can we even think for a second any one of you are decent? But I'm sure you probably are, so I'm going to ask you, do something bold. Stand up
You have 30 seconds
and show up. I know how much
remaining.
time I have. Stand up and show up, even if it's not popular. Again, Mr. City Manager, look at me. That child in that video, that's my son.
Okay, thank you. I always have trouble with this name, Diane Sella? I'm sorry, say it again, please. Deandra, I'm sorry.
Ooh, I'm sorry. This really gives me a flashback, so I'm going to try to get through this. But the recent comments made by the police chief suggested just that a number of minorities are committing crimes and calling members of the police oversight committee cop haters are harmful and deeply troubling. These remarks reinforce dangerous stereotypes and undermine trust between law enforcement and the people they are sworn to serve. Let's be clear. Disagreement with misconduct does not make someone a cop hater. Demanding accountability is not anti-police. It's pro-community and it's pro-safety. Police are people. They are good and they are bad officers. And that is exactly why an oversight committee is needed and should continue. If officers are not doing anything wrong, then there should be no problem with the oversight committee. For me, this is personal. My family was violated by this police department over 15 years ago. The harm that was done continues to this day. And instead of addressing real issues, the response was to attack our family, my family's character, to discredit us, rather than to face the truth. That kind of deflection is why trust in law enforcement continues to not be there. When I think of police, I believe they are meant to serve and protect. But when a person in a position of authority makes these kind of comments, the question becomes, serve and protect who? An apology is not enough. Communities of color have heard "I'm sorry" too many times, followed by business as usual. We need real accountability, public acknowledgement of harm, removal of the police chief, and genuine respect for the oversight committee. Anything less is unacceptable. This is more than one time. It's about whether East Lansing is willing to confront biases head-on and build a trustworthy public safety system. I urge the city to act. East Lansing has a long and painful history of structural and institutional racism for decades. Black families were blocked from buying homes, denied mortgages, and excluded from neighborhoods. And just to touch on one more thing is how disappointing this is, because then I went back and I found an article, and I was very disturbed by this. If many of us remember when the couches were burned in East Lansing, and we had a huge crowd. Actually, I was sitting at home and I could hear them rooting and everything. And when I look here and it says, authorities said no one was injured and no tear gas or other chemical agents were used. But we are so quick to pull out our tasers if we see a person of color. And you're not just, you're destroying people. And I don't know about how anybody else was raised, but my grandparents and my parents told me they're good and bad in every color. We should never be afraid. I should never. I was sharing with Nadia, I call my sons, they're 31. Are you okay? Did the police say something to you? Did this happen? Did that happen? And they made my boys out to be bad people, and my son spent no nights in jail to this day because we raised them right. So I don't know when you're gonna do something different. When I say it crushes me, because my son was violated at 17, he's 31, and the damage that it has done to us. As you see, I stand before you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody in the queue?
There's
I'm
one
sorry.
caller in the queue.
Go ahead, please.
Caller with your last name, Kaysen, you are now free to address the council.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Kaysen. I am the Executive Director of the Women's Center of Greater Lansing, and I also live on Abbey Road. I sent a press release to the press today, but as well as to City Council, and I just want to read it so that everyone can hear what I have to say. The Women's Center of Greater Lansing calls for the resignation of East Lansing Police Chief Jen Brown and a full state investigation into department racism. The Women's Center of East Lansing is calling for the immediate resignation of East Lansing Police Chief Jen Brown following her recent racist remarks about minorities and crimes in the city. The center is also demanding a full independent investigation into systemic racism within the East Lansing Police Department by the Michigan Department of Civil Rights and the Michigan Attorney General's Office. Chief Brown's recent comments in which she stated a disproportionate number of minorities have been committing crimes in East Lansing are deeply harmful, perpetuate racial stereotypes, and undermine community trust. Such statements are unacceptable from any public official, especially from someone charged with ensuring public safety. These are not a mistaken phrasing. They reveal a dangerous bias that has no place in leadership. Our community deserves safety, justice, and respect. Black and brown residents deserve to live in East Lansing without being stereotyped, targeted, or blamed. The Women's Center of Greater Lansing stands in solidarity with the residents and organizations demanding accountability and transparency. We call on the City of East Lansing, Mayor George Brookover, and City Council to take immediate action to demand Chief Brown's resignation and begin the search for a new police chief committed to racial equity, trauma-informed policing, and community trust. Request an independent investigation by the Michigan Department of Civil Rights and the Michigan Attorney General's Office into systemic racism within the East Lansing Police Department. Ensure full public transparency of all findings and reform commitments resulting from this investigation. East Lansing residents, particularly people of color, women, and survivors of trauma, must be able to trust that law enforcement protects them rather than profiles or harms them. As an organization that provides mental health counseling, advocacy, and empowerment to women and marginalized people across Greater Lansing, the Women's Center of Greater Lansing has witnessed firsthand the emotional and physical toll systemic racism and bias in policing create. We cannot build a safe community without accountability. We urge city leaders and state officials to act swiftly and decisively to ensure that East Lansing's policing practices reflect justice, equity, and respect for all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Was there somebody else here?
I'm Chris Root.
Christine Root, please.
Yeah, I live in East Lansing. I'm a member of the Police Oversight Commission, and I'm speaking for myself. I just took to the mayor two things that were not included in the written communication packet tonight. One of them is the email that Rebecca Kaysen sent indicating that there was an attachment of the press release But the press release wasn't there. The attachment wasn't there. So people reading the packet had no idea what was in it. Also, the East Lansing Independent Police Oversight Commission adopted a 7-page memo to the City Council. I'm hoping that you received it. It was sent on October 2nd, the day after our meeting. It also was not in the written communication package. Transparency is very important in oversight, and the Commission is taking it very seriously for its own work as well as for the police department. So I hope that that will be included in the written communications from tonight. I want to express my deep appreciation for what you two women have shared with us about your family members and what has happened to them in our city. It is brave of you to do it, and it is generous of you to come and be willing to tell those of us who are white what your experience has been. And that creates a responsibility for those of us who hear you to listen and learn and do our best to stand in solidarity with you. And I feel that as an individual. I also feel it as a member of the Oversight Commission. And I want to give a little information to the council about how it is becoming more and more difficult for the Oversight Commission to get information and share information and be effective in providing oversight. One of the things in the memo that we sent, one of the points was about the names of officers having been removed from the monthly, what are called response to resistance narrative reports, what we call use of force reports. You know, most police departments still call it use of force. We've been getting use of force reports monthly since October of 2021. The ordinance for the commission says that the department will give the commission monthly reports. They have always been public. They have always included the names of the officers. And there is no change in the proposed, in the proposals for amendments from, so that the ordinance will conform to the collective bargaining agreement. It doesn't say these are going to now be confidential reports. It doesn't say anything about treating them any differently. It doesn't say anything about taking the officers' names out of them. 4 months ago, right after the CBA was adopted by the council, the ELPD started giving us reports monthly without the names of the officers. And we passed a motion, we included it in this memo, saying there's nothing in the CBA that requires this. Then, at this September 10 meeting, I said, please don't wait until October 1 to give us the August use of force reports. This is August we're talking about. This is the Welcome Week incidents. This is the ones that community people are coming to us and telling us are very important. And they didn't have it for us by September 10th. Then October 1 comes and the police chief says, I've given you the use of force report. And I didn't know we had the use of force report. And then I looked in my email. It had come 12 minutes before our meeting.
You have 30 seconds remaining.
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to share most of the news that came today and Saturday. But what happened is they gave us the monthly report with the names of the officers and said, it's a confidential report. You can't share it with anybody. That has never been the case since October of 2021, and it hasn't been the case since you all passed the CBA. And so they've got these new reasons to say that's the way it's always been, right? This is a reminder. Well, it hasn't always been this way. It's never been this way. Because I don't have time to read it, I will share the exchange of email with the members of the council, and I'd like that to be included in the written packet for today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I couldn't finish.
Okay. Anybody else in the queue?
There are no other callers in the queue.
Okay, moving ahead. Item 2.2, or excuse me, 2.3, communications from the mayor and council members. Dr. Altman?
Thank you, Mayor. No report.
Okay, Mr. Meadows?
Just a question for Chris. Are you referring to the email that Jennifer Brown sent out this afternoon?
There was one on Friday and one this afternoon.
Okay, and you were going to read that into the record, but you didn't do so. I'm going to read that into the record. So that's all right. I have it in front of me.
The Friday one is here. And then
I think that's a communication between her and Dr. Etzel, but I want to read the last one because that's the last thing that we've received. It just says, Christine, good afternoon. Under guidance from the labor attorney and city attorney, I have confirmed that the ordinance does not allow this report to be released publicly on a monthly basis with officer names. According to Section 2-485, the East Lansing Police Department is required to give ELAPOC a monthly report summarizing each RTR incident during the month. On an annual basis, ELAPOC is required to publish summaries of the RTR incidents that do not include individuals' names. And the only reason I'm reading this is because I want to ask the city attorney, this is consistent with the advice that you had provided?
I'm sorry, Councilmember. I was asking a question of staff. I missed your question.
The question is, I just read into the record the chief's statement relating to what she could release or not release after consultation with you and the labor attorney. And I'm asking if it is accurate.
I believe the statements about release of materials was indeed reviewed by Labor Council and I believe our office as well.
And so, do you need me to provide you a copy of the email from the chief in order to answer my question?
Sure, I'd appreciate that.
Okay. Is that on this, Chris?
yes, it is. There was a previous explanation on Saturday, on Friday. It was different.
Yes, I'm familiar with that, and that is correct.
Okay, thank you. Well, this is an issue that we have to deal with. As the council is limited in the things that it can do regarding personnel, obviously, we're monitoring what has happened. I think it is incorrect if whoever indicated that it doesn't appear that any council member has, other than Councilmember Watson, has talked about this issue or raised it with our administration. We often don't do that in a public manner. We do it privately. So, along the lines of what the chair had indicated earlier, certainly our expectation is there's a more careful way of talking as a chief of police and avoiding offending other individuals within our community or out of our community through statements as we go forward. And certainly every member of council will be monitoring that. That's all I've got to say.
Okay, Councilperson Watson?
Okay. I took notes and I'm going to follow my notes today. I wanted to just kind of share in spaces where we're talking about social justice and equity, we talk about intent versus impact. And so it's not anything I've come up with. It's something where the ask isn't to focus on what your intentions were, but what the impact was to what was happened or who was harmed in that situation. Some of us might be familiar with, for example, impact statements that sometimes people make. And so Next, I taken a lot of heat for saying something about the chief's apology, but just want to say, run it through Google Gemini and ask if it's a good apology. I'm not, again, I don't make stuff up, and I mean, I do say what I say, but, you know, a lot of people are really, you know, some people, a percentage of people are upset with me for speaking out, but just going to say again, run the apology through Google Gemini and see what Google Gemini says. And you know, maybe you'll come to a different space because it's Google Gemini and not me, a black woman, saying something. The next thing I want to talk about is the City of East Lansing, and want to remind everyone where you are and where we come from. In February of 2018, the East Lansing City Council, Councilmember Meadows was on council at that time, passed a resolution to acknowledge, apologize for, and condemn racial discrimination in East Lansing. It's a resolution that was passed, and this speaks to where our value is in the City of East Lansing. The next thing I want to point out is in November of 2020, as I've mentioned before, the City of East Lansing passed a resolution declaring racism as a public health crisis in East Lansing. Those are about what we stand for. This is what our community is about. And I know that it was before Chief Brown's time, and I know it was before City Manager Bellman's time, but it's important to historically and just kind of understand the city that you're in, and that you know you've been hired to work for and do work for. My time is coming to an end, and because of my day job, I do national work as well, and I'm going to be at a national conference or conversations in New York next week. So I will miss my final discussion-only meeting. However, discussion-only meetings have taken a shift. And what I've noticed is even though we're having these so-called discussion-only meetings, which from my understanding is something that Councilmember Meadows was involved with as far as how that structure came to be, but where we're at now, for me, and if you look back at discussion-only meetings, it's just white men asking the other white men who don't live here what their thoughts are. The female council members are overlooked, and no one discusses anything amongst council. And I want to say, to the exception of, again, Councilmember Meadows, I know that you'll genuinely try to have discussions and conversations, because that should be the purpose, to deliberate. But for some reason, it's taken this problematic shift. And Mayor Brookover, I don't want you to feel too picked on. I just understand things about how you operate, and so you know, and so anyway.
Pick away.
Say again? No, I don't want you to feel
pick
too.
away.
I just want to point out, though, it's taken a turn, and the discussion-only meetings are supposed to be city council members' opportunity for the public to see them deliberate and share. And then I'll go to our complicity, the overall complicity of council. No one can read our minds, and that's why, again, it's also very important for us to speak up, not just on matters that we want to speak up on, but how many times do we need to be called out without taking our own accountability and thinking about the complicity that we have? I wish that I hope that our community votes, if you haven't already, for your city council candidates. I wish, as we talk about being genuine in the human that you are as you run for city council spaces, I wish that every single time we were asking candidates if they were pro-choice. I don't want someone on this city council who are making problematic decisions around my uterus. I wish we could ask city council candidates every single time, are they pro or anti-LGBTQ+, because that helps us. Our community is pro-LGBTQ+, and you don't belong here, and you shouldn't be voted in if you are anti. This is not the message that City of East Lansing is about. I wish we could ask every single candidate what their understanding was on what's happening with Black and brown community members, and that we pay attention if someone says, oh, racial disparities don't exist. It's like me saying racism doesn't exist in our nation, and you just got to read some books. I know a lot of books are banned, but you just got to read some books if you don't want to believe me, because it's coming out of my mouth. I wish we could ask every single candidate how they felt about the environment and how they're going to vote, because that's our future too, as well as what their thoughts are for young people, because some of us, it's been a while since we've been young, or maybe we are a young person, and so we can do some reflection on that. And I wish we could ask every single city council candidate, are you just running for power, or do you want to make good changes in this community? And I hope that our community and our voters hear that. So as my time comes to an end, I had a proud moment of being able to record an East Lansing Independent Police Oversight Commission meetings. I've been asking for over 2 years to no fruition for better access to all public meetings. And I was able to do it on my tiny little phone, and I posted it on YouTube. And obviously, I can't rule City of East Lansing, and it's been the feeling of being dismissed more than heard, or more than actions taken. For example, we haven't heard from our prosecutor, and some of the feedback was that we hadn't heard from our prosecutor. So then I'm like, well, again, what was really the problem when we chose a different prosecutor? We haven't heard from our lobbyists. We're supposed to hear from our lobbyists on a quarterly basis, and that hasn't happened. And that was something that some of those drivers included former council member Lisa Babcock, to the importance of being able to tie it all together with what's happening on the state level, and then what's happening in the city level, and what can we do. I had requested restorative justice for our East Lansing Independent Police Oversight Commission, but despite me asking and sending emails and all sorts of things, it never happened. And so it was something, anyway, it never happened. But again, I'm proud to say that even though I've been ignored and there's been delay tactics, I was able, with my little old phone, to do something that could have benefited from the support of the city, but that's that. And lastly, I stand on the shoulders of my ancestors in this position and in my life, and I stand on the shoulders of giants. And I thank my ancestors from Africa. I thank those who were enslaved and brought here. I can follow my lineage. We were brought in around the east side in Pennsylvania as enslaved people. I want to thank my predecessors for letting me stand on their shoulders and be in this position right now, that include people like Fred Hampton, Barack Obama, John Lewis, Dr. Martin Luther King, Sarah Anthony, Thelma Evans, Ron Bacon, and Aaron Stevens. They let me stand on their shoulders so that I could be here, and that I could also successfully try to be here. Throughout my tenure as a city councilwoman, I know I've been the only Black woman walking into white spaces with the power and leadership that I had, and that hasn't been well received. And when you look at some of the things that go on in this community, and when you understand that there's never been someone that looked like me in the space, it kind of gets difficult to be received well in white spaces. But I will continue on. And the last thing I wanted to say is, East Lansing Independent Police Oversight Commission, you have had the power all along. And that's all.
Okay. Ms. Singh?
Yes, just briefly, I want to thank my colleagues for their comments this evening, as well as those that came out during public comment. And, some of the information coming out today is new information and that the news coverage has produced. So I look forward to learning more about the other footage that sounds like was released recently. With that said, I just want to give a shout out to the remaining university student commissioners that will be, assuming support through the consent agenda will hopefully be approved and that board will be at full capacity. So with that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. In 1944, a Swedish economist, Dr. Gunnar Myrdal, authored a book called An American Dilemma. In it, among other things, he analyzed the myriad obstacles to full participation in America's society faced by Americans of color. Within a few years after that book, Michigan State University grew exponentially with the return of World War II veterans and their ability to pay for college education. As MSU grew, so did the City of East Lansing. That growth was fueled, in part, by the presence at the university of foreign students from numerous countries and numerous religions, and black Americans, such as Dr. Clarence Underwood, Dr. Robert Greene, and Gene Washington, to name just a few. With this growth, East Lansing was forced to confront this American dilemma. We still confront it today. Some progress has been made, but much progress remains to be achieved. I continue to hope that the citizens and employees of East Lansing will continue to confront the American dilemma. Will continue to support equal justice under the law, and will reject the current national example of name-calling, belittling, use of pejorative language, and ignorance of our shared cultures, pluralism, and diversity. In view of recent events, I call upon our city manager and city attorney to undertake immediately a complete review of our police and personnel policies and report back to council with the recommendations as to how the city can best utilize outside resources, such as the MSU School of Criminal Justice, to ensure our continuing progress towards effective and just law enforcement. Thank you. City Manager report.
All right, so I too want to echo Mayor Pro Tem in thanking those that came forward to continue to hold our feet to the fire. Words do matter. The comments made by Police Chief Brown was offensive and racist. She apologized, but some felt that fell short because there was no action or action to change accompanying that apology. I think there's an opportunity to learn. And I believe that Jen Brown is willing to learn. I believe that's the foundation of this city with its quality education system and MSU as a cornerstone. We continue to teach. The comments made are a teaching opportunity. I also believe that constant change in the leadership with East Lansing Police Department is part of the reason why the public, LEPOC, and this council have not seen the changes that are needed. And so I stand behind Jen, even though the error was made, to continue to grow and to make the necessary changes in our police department. I want to iterate BIPOC are welcome in this city. I don't believe they contribute to a problem. I think our problem is the violence and the crime, regardless of race. And we need to learn to address that without trying to continue to marginalize our residents or our visitors. And we'll continue to strive to do so. So thank you, Mayor, for your request and for your summary of the American dilemma, and we'll continue to work towards that balance.
City Attorney report.
No report this evening, thank you.
Okay, we move on to the consent agenda. Mr. Bellarmine.
From tonight's consent agenda, approve the following appointments or reappointments to boards and commissions. Eleanor Carr to the University Student Commission for a full term ending September 30th, 2026. Bailey Reger to the University Student Commission for a full term ending September 30th, 2026. And addition from tonight's agenda is Michaela Curvis to the Downtown Management Board for a full term ending. Do we have a date?
I don't have a date with me, sorry.
Council member.
Maybe somebody out there.
December 31st, 2026.
All right, through
Should be the
full
date.
term through December 31st, 2026. 3.2 is approve a 3-year contract for the WRRF emergency and as-needed electrical services with Newkirk Electric Associates for a total authorized amount not to exceed $90,000 and authorize the city manager to sign. 3.3 is approve a resolution recognizing October 13th, 2025 as Indigenous Peoples Day.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Meadows. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Altman to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. We now turn to a public hearing. Is Ms. Gabbard here? Oh, there you are. I'm sorry. With regard to and in compliance with Section 108.44 of the Property Maintenance Code related to 141 Orchard Street, the owner is Richard Schoemaker. And I will note at this point, for the record, that the council has before it, in its packet, the following documents. First of all, a memorandum from, I believe, Tim Schultz, and attachments including a dangerous building order dated June 26, 2025, relative to a hearing of March 27th of 2025. A correspondence from hearing examiner Lapka to the council transmitting order 08-15-2025. 141 Orchard, a signed stipulation dated May 8th of 2024, executed by all parties. A dangerous building 141 Orchard hearing notice for March 27th, 2025. A notice of dangerous building hearing dated May 17th, 2024. A notice of dangerous building hearing dated March 28th, 2024. A November 3rd, 2022 order to abate at 141 Orchard Street. A May 13th, 2022 fence violation letter relative to 141 Orchard Street. A December 10th, 2021 conditions letter regarding 141 Orchard Street. A November 18th, 2021 conditions letter relative to 141 Orchard Street. photos of the wall allegedly falling in the alley on March 14th, 2025. Another picture of the orchard fence, and I believe other pictures from August 5th of 2025. With that record, I then open the show cause hearing relative to 141 Orchard Street. Is Mr. Schoonmaker or his attorney present? Yes, sir. What would you like to tell us tonight, please? Sure.
And I have 5 copies for you. I don't have a 6th copy for the city attorney.
Great, thank you. Thank you. And Mr. Schoonmaker, let me just interrupt you for a second. So the issue before us tonight for you to understand and for the council is for the council to decide whether to accept the order dated June 26th, 2025 from Mr. Lapka, modify the order, or disapprove the order. Proceed, sir, please.
Okay.
Thanks for coming tonight.
It's a prepared statement. I appear under protest and without waiving any objections or rights in pending federal proceedings. The hearing officer failed to timely file the required report under Section 108.4.4 of the East Lansing Property Maintenance Code. That report was due no later than July 21, 2025. The August 15, 2025 filing was untimely and cannot retroactively confer jurisdiction on this council. Under Michigan law, statutory deadlines and quasi-judicial proceedings are jurisdictional. Because no timely report was filed, this council lacks authority to proceed under Section 108.4.5 of the East Lansing Property Maintenance Code, and any action taken here is void ab initio. I preserve all objections and do not submit to this council's jurisdiction. I am not requesting any relief from this body. To preserve my jurisdictional objections, I will not be addressing substantive questions or discussion beyond this statement. This written statement contains my complete position. I have provided a signed hard copy of my statement. That concludes my statement. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And you have nothing else you want to add?
I do not.
Dana, I want to take one and pass them down, please. Ms. Gabbard, any response, any need for a response at this point as far as you're concerned?
Sure. Oh, sorry, I think I turned it off. Just as a bit of a background, and not to get too conflated, but Mr. Schumacher does have a pending.
And just let me note for the record that Mr. Schumacher has left the building, so proceed.
Okay. The matters that were addressed by Mr. Schumacher have been addressed with the court, and the court has deemed it appropriate to go forward with City Council on this matter today. I'll just say that.
You're talking about the federal court?
Correct.
Okay. Anything else you want to add?
No, I believe the city did a wonderful job in preparing the staff report, and I feel that fully details the background of this.
Okay, council members, I took the liberty of preparing a proposed order, which I have now distributed to you, which in effect adopts the ruling of Mr. Lapka dated June 26, 2025. Subject to your consideration of that, I believe the public hearing is therefore now closed, And what does the council wish to do with regard to the issue before us, which is whether we want to accept the order dated June 26, 2025 from Mr. Lapka, modify the order, or disapprove the order. And the order that I've drafted for your consideration accepts the order of Mr. Lapka dated June 26, 2025, and gives the respondent, pursuant to the statute, as I understand it, and legal counsel has advised me, and as contained in your memo, in your packet, gives the respondent 60 days from tonight's date, assuming that you pass this or authorize this order and I sign it tonight.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd like a little more detail about what happened in the federal court. So if you can elucidate on that a little bit.
So he's filed a case. It's currently stayed. It's stayed via the magistrate report and recommendation. We're waiting the final determination from the judge, but it's currently listed as stayed. He filed that case after we had already begun the dangerous building process. This has been an ongoing property concern, I'll just say that, before I even came to the city. But we had originally set it up for a dangerous building hearing in 2024, and I believe his filing for the federal case was in 2025. So it's already in process.
And the decision you referenced with regard to his claim regarding the time frame, that was determined by the magistrate judge?
Correct.
Against him?
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, sir, Dr. Altman.
So I have a question about whether the city attorney has had an opportunity to review the mayor's proposed order.
Yes, I have.
Okay, all right. I have a question about the sequence of events. The most recent decision from the dangerous buildings hearing in June indicated that the property needed to be in compliance within, I believe, 20 days of that decision. And that didn't happen, so now we're here. Is this essentially an appeal?
It's not an appeal. It's not an appeal. What it is it's because he did not comply. It's a step in the process. So because he did not comply with the hearing officer's order, the next step is a show cause in front of city council. And this is where, as Mayor pointed out, you can either approve the order, modify the order, or just deny the whole order. He can then, depending on what you do tonight, appeal that decision to the circuit court.
Okay, so the next step is circuit court at
Correct.
this point. And then, a question for the mayor. The proposed order that you drafted here essentially upholds the hearing officer's order?
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion? How does the council wish to proceed?
Well, I'll move that we hereby adopt and affirm the order of Hearing Officer Lapka that was issued on June 26, 2025, as set forth and with the language set forth in the document that we have before us that was, I guess I would say, introduced by the mayor.
And that document having the title of, quote, order following show cause hearing, end quote?
Correct.
Okay. Is there a second with regard to that motion?
Second.
Moved and seconded by Singh. Any further discussion?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Is that, for the city attorneys, is that an appropriate motion? Does that cover all our bases?
Sure, yes, that would be appropriate.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Altman?
Yes.
Councilmember Meadows?
Yes.
Councilmember Watson?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Singh?
Yes.
Mayor Brookover?
Yes. Motion passes, and I will sign the order contemporaneously. And I assume that goes to the clerk?
To be filed.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving ahead on the agenda, we have a public hearing to receive comments on ordinance 1554, a proposed rezoning of 314, 328, 334, and 340, also known as 344 Evergreen Avenue, from RM32 City Center Commercial, RM32 City Center Multiple Family Residential to B3 City Center Commercial.
Thank
Yes,
you, Mayor. Landon Bartley, Principal Planner. Yes, these properties have been rezoned back and forth from RM32 to B3 several times in 2017 and 2018. Essentially, as we went through the process to market those properties, we found after some research that the properties were still zoned RM32 when we thought they were B3, so we brought forward, at the DDA's request, a request to rezone these properties back to B3. DDA held a special meeting on July 9th and voted unanimously to make the application and request council support of the rezoning. The City Council introduced the ordinance on July 15th and referred it to the Planning Commission. Planning Commission had their public hearing on August 13th and received no comments and took action that evening to recommend approval by council of this rezoning. Can I answer any questions?
Any questions for staff before we move to the public hearing? Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing relative to receiving comments on ordinance 1554, a proposed rezoning of 314, 328, 334, and 340, also known as 344 Evergreen Avenue, from RM32 City Center Multiple Family Residential to B3 City Center Commercial. The public hearing is open. Is there anyone that wishes to address the council with regard to the public hearing? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. What is the preference of council with regard to this item tonight?
I'll move that we approve ordinance 1554 to rezone 314, 328, 334, and 340, AKA 344 Evergreen Avenue from RM32 City Center Multiple Family Residential to B3 City Center.
Second.
Moved by Meadows, seconded by Watson. Any discussion?
I'll just note that, yes, it did flip back and forth. We tended to utilize the RM32 as sort of a holding zone until we received development projects that would bump it up into, that we would need B3 in order to consider and approve, much like we use RA in some areas of the city to designate sort of agricultural property that is no longer agricultural but may be subject to development in the future. So I'm very much in support of this, and I'd like to thank the DDA for, I guess, pushing it forward and entering into a contract to maybe finally have something happen here. So.
Any further discussion?
I have a question, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Is it necessary to include the property numbers in the motion? It would, okay, all right.
What was the answer?
No, I don't think it's necessary. I think the record properly reflects what properties it relates to.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We then move to item 5, the business agenda, item 5.1, consideration of boards and commission application form. You have in your packet the current boards and commission's application form and a brief memorandum from Mr. Belleman. Will you speak to this, Mr. Belleman, please?
Actually, I'll defer to Councilmember Watson, who asked that this be put on, and Councilmember Meadows supported the request to take a look at the current boards and commission application. I also just want to draw attention, I did send 2 emails out earlier today providing insight into what Amy Gordon knew about any potential changes to this application when asked.
Are you able to speak to those emails? I don't always get caught up with what's sent on Tuesdays before coming to council. And so are you able to go over that and then, for the public as well?
Sure. So the emails indicated that they weren't aware of any major changes, with the exception of the addition to the financial health review team to the application. It was pointed out that the application moved from paper to iCompass in around 2000, I believe? 2019.
Okay. And when was the last time, thank you for that. When was the last time it was updated or reviewed?
I think we're struggling to be able to accurately answer that.
Okay, all right. I'll continue. The reason I wanted to have this discussion is because East Lansing Independent Police Oversight Commission appointed Councilmember Altman's wife to East Lansing Police Oversight Commission. And it wasn't clear that they had a marital relationship. And my goal would be to not appoint family members who are married to council members who are currently serving. The understanding was that the timing wasn't, that it was confusing on why the timing happened the way it did. Why didn't this candidate apply for East Lansing Independent Police Oversight Commission prior? And why did she apply so quickly after Councilmember Altman was elected and took a seat? And so I think for transparency, like I said, I know a lot of you have connections, marital connections, et cetera. But, and so if the agreement is no, I think we should consider them, then I think there should be a spot where that's recognized, where I'm not, or anyone isn't being blindsided bringing in someone who has a possible conflict and can really talk that through, as opposed to, for example, all the people that have applied for East Lansing Independent Police Oversight Commission again now. I start seeing similar names, and it's just like, well, is this person related to someone, or is there a connection that could possibly be also problematic? And the final thing I'll say, and then I'll pause in case anybody wants to say anything, is there was an article that came out, and this was through City Pulse, and it was about no real oversight for lawmaker lobbyist marriages. But that's what also helped me think about, how do we be transparent and appoint people in a way where if there's a conflict, again, we can talk it through, or maybe we just don't consider partners because people that we're married to legally, because legally there's things that each other is aware of that that to me blurs the lines for the work that we're trying to do. But that's why I brought this up, wondering the last time, and I like I said, I'll pause right now in case anyone has anything they'd like to say.
Well, here's what I'd like to say, which I'm kind of astonished. But I think before we start answering your questions, we need legal advice as to what is legal and not legal with regard to questioning of people's relationships with other people. So you refer to, quote, legal, end quote, relationships, but there's a whole myriad of relationships, especially in today's society. There's romantic entanglements. There's, did I go to the dance class with a certain woman who has applied for this, that, or the other thing? And I just don't know what the status of the law is right now on that. And I suspect that there's some already existing state law that I'm aware of with regard to potential conflicts of interest, and I suspect that there's buried in our various city provisions, there's law in this. So I'm in favor of considering this, but I need advice from the city attorney as to what the spectrum is in terms of what's legal and what's not legal. So I would suggest that we refer this to the city attorney for an opinion letter back to us in terms of what is feasible, what's possible, and what's not. Does that make some sense to you?
I'll just indicate I don't have a problem with that. But I did, like, sort of second the motion to have this on the agenda so that we'd have maybe a legitimate discussion-only type discussion. So I do want to put my 2 cents in, which I don't support identifying the spouse or partner of an individual on an application. I think that in the past, I can think of Diane Gutierrez, John Gutierrez, Laura Gutierrez, all of which served on boards and commissions while Diane was on the city council. Shanna Draheim, a member of the city council whose husband was on a board or commission. And I think it's the dynamic of the board or commission that sort of protects us in that. And I do have a memory of the interview with Eric's spouse and how excellent that interview was. I think, and my memory is that we all voted to approve her appointment to ELIPOC. But in that vein, I think Eric even left the room, maybe, and did not vote on that at all. That's on the council member. So if your spouse is going to make an application to serve on a board or commission, I think that the issue of approval, even though that may be not as conflicting as maybe we should think of it, it is not. It's on the council member to declare the conflict, ask to be excused from a council vote per our ordinances and policies. So I think we're protected, actually. And then the dynamic of every board and commission is to make recommendations. So a recommendation comes forward if there's an 11-member board or commission by the vote of at least 6 of the individuals, and it's possible that the spouse of an individual could be part of that. It also could be true that they're not a part of that recommendation. And that's the dynamic of every board and commission that we have created. They make a recommendation to council. It has to be by the majority of the members of that council. And I think that's also a protection against undue influence by a particular member of a board or commission with a council member. And that's not to say that doesn't happen. I think that in sort of any commission dynamic, a council member can be lobbied, just like on any type of thing that we might be voting regard. Yeah, and it could be a board or commission member who does that. But I think we have the protections for that, and I'm satisfied that we've done things over the years that have ensured that the public could be confident that when we're making a decision here, it's one that isn't over-influenced by some member of some family or a board or commission.
Well, I move we refer this to the city attorney for preparation of an opinion letter indicating what restraints, if any, we have with regard to asking about interpersonal relationships in terms of commission appointments and making any recommendations, if necessary, to changes in our existing application form.
I wanted to say I saw Carrie, Mayor Pro Tem's finger go. Oh, I saw her finger. Yeah.
It's okay, but I can add a friendly amendment.
Well, I don't even have a second yet, so
Okay, I'll
sorry.
second.
talk about.
All right.
Can I-
I'm sorry, did somebody second it?
I'll second it, but
Okay.
I want to offer a friendly amendment.
Sure.
which will pivot into my comments. See, I'll work that right in. So thank you, Mayor, for that request for our city attorney. What I would add, because it has been talked amongst, I think, whether it's at this venue or in individual conversations, is looking across our boards and commissions to look at, or at least list, the types of trainings like Robert's Rules that we've been asking our commissions to participate in. There may be other, I know, whether ride-alongs or restorative justice trainings for certain commissions. I think like the arts commissions as well as the arts selection committee, you have to be an artist to be qualified to be selected for the selection committee. So there may be other recommendations, not for our city attorney, but wanted to bring in the city manager to maybe have staff have some input on that.
So you have this motion include
City manager.
a review of other potential recommendations for qualifications of city commission
I'm not going to
members?
say qualifications, but I think anyone that applies for a commission should understand that there's other trainings to be a part of the commission.
Yeah.
And what would those be?
Well, maybe Mr. Meadows and Dr. Altman can speak to this. I had thought that there were already existing policies with regard to some of those issues, again, buried in our years of policies.
I think when you and I were serving on the planning commission, I think you got appointed right after I did, or maybe I got appointed right after you did. The first thing Bob Owen told me was, I'm going to schedule you for your zoning training by the MML. And I'm pretty sure that doesn't happen anymore. So
it's not
I think what the Mayor Pro Tem is asking is, are there things like that which could benefit the operation of each of our boards and commissions? And if so, what would those be? What would be the recommendation of the liaisons to those boards and commissions to improve the product that we're seeing through some training that is required as a condition of serving? And I don't want it to be so onerous that we start not having anybody apply because they don't want to go through the training. But I think it's a worthy thing to look into. And maybe I'm misstating what the Mayor Pro Tem was really looking for.
Okay, well, I accept the friendly amendment. Does the seconder accept the friendly amendment?
She was the seconder.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know. You guys have got me whipsawed tonight, so
Yeah.
I don't know whether I'm coming or going. Okay, so that's the motion. Yes, sir, Dr. Altman.
I'd like to offer a couple of comments, if I may. First, I want to correct the record. I believe, and Mr. Meadows can possibly confirm this, I believe that my spouse did disclose her relationship in the interview.
I think at the end of the interview, it was disclosed that she was the wife of a council member, namely you.
Yes. And of course, at the meeting itself where we voted, I did ask to be recused based on my perception of a conflict, and I was recused, so it was all perfectly obvious what the relationship was when the vote was held, which was unanimous 4-0 to appoint my spouse to the commission. So I just wanted to not leave that confusion in the record dangling there. I also wanted to say, just in general terms about the proposal, that we start collecting marital status information on what is effectively a job application, is that there's a reason we don't collect personal information like marital status on job applications, because it's a basis for discrimination by the employer. And I'm a little surprised to have to point this out to this group. This is about as basic as it gets. And even if it's not technically illegal because this is a volunteer application, not a job application, the basic point stands. This whole proposal is completely ridiculous, and I don't want to waste a minute of anybody's time or a dime of taxpayer money considering this, because this is all based on a petty grievance from the beginning. The other thing I want to mention is that the idea that my wife and I are the same person is from a bygone era. It's like the 1950s called and wants its assumptions back. I'm really surprised that we're even talking about this. Thank you.
Any
Okay,
comments?
well, Dr. Altman, I'd ask you to reflect on the reasons why I gave for my motion, which is to have the city attorney once again establish what the law is precisely in a document to guide this council and future councils. You may very well be right, but I just want to make sure that we have the law established at the current point in time, so. Okay, are we ready to vote on this?
I've got comments.
Yes.
Yep. Just city attorney, for your reference, our previous city council talked about nepotism. And there's nepotism, I don't know what it's called, a law or resolution, in the city of East Lansing, where speaking of relationships with people and employment, my own kids can't work part-time in a parking structure because of what we passed for nepotism. And so I thought, again, like, it's interesting that now someone is referencing this like employment, but there's this gray that exists regarding it. And I also want to point out that this City Pulse article also mentioned Nathan Triplett. And so I know that, I think he was also a person who appointed his partner to stuff, right?
His wife was head of the Arts Commission.
Yes. And so it's always interesting timing when, and Mark knew Councilmember Altman's wife. He knew it was her. I didn't know until the day of the interview that it was happening. And I'm asking, I think people should know in advance and be able to process that and think about where they land on that. That's great that you all don't share a brain. Councilmember Alton has ended up being the most kind of outspoken against Ellie Pak's position on things. And so it's just, it's put you in a situation where maybe if we hadn't appointed your wife to a commission that you were gonna then go and be against and have issues with what they pass, it muddied your voice as well for me. I could have kept it separate because maybe we didn't have a partner in the situation, a marital partner. And so I just want to say, I didn't think that council was going to be on board with not appointing partners, seeing married people, seeing as the council has a history of doing that and being okay with it and not seeing those issues. But if there's an opportunity to acknowledge that relationship for people that don't know when you're going over your candidates, that's transparency to me. And that's all I'll say.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes 4-1. Moving on. Do we have, okay, business agenda 5.2, consideration of the recommended pay increase from the Elected Officers Compensation Commission. Yes, madam.
Good evening, Mayor Brookover and Council. So tonight I am here to talk about the Elected Officers Compensation Commission and the recommendation that you have in front of you. First, I'm going to give a little background information. This is also included in the agenda item report dating back to 2009. This commission meets every 2 years. It's a 7-member commission, and their job is to discuss the pay of the legislative body in accordance with the Home Rule City Act and Ordinance 977. The commission then makes the determination. They send the clerk a letter. That letter is date stamped as to when we receive it, and then that is put forth to council. On September 30th, 5 members of the Elected Officers Compensation Commission met to discuss the compensation of the mayor and council members. At that meeting, they elected Marie Wicks as their chair and Charles McMillan as their co-chair. I presented them with data which most aligned with the city of East Lansing as far as the population. And I also included one that had a larger population than East Lansing, but it is also a Big Ten school in there. That data came from Ann Arbor, Battle Creek, Midland, Novi, Royal Oak, City of Wyoming, City of Portage, and City of Lincoln Park. The commission then voted unanimously to raise the pay to $15,000 a year for the mayor and $13,000 a year for the council members. That pay is paid quarterly to the council members. So, and their current salaries are $11,000 a year for the mayor and $9,470 for the council members. Tonight, you have two options. You can either take no action on this, or you can deny it. If you take no action on this, it would become effective 30 days from the date it was received by my office, which was Friday, October 3rd, therefore making it effective November 2nd, 2025. If you choose to deny it, this must be done by a 2/3 majority of council by a resolution, and a resolution would be put forth at the next regular meeting of council. If you do choose to deny it, the existing salary will prevail. This is a determination of the Elected Officers Compensation Commission, so you can either accept or deny it, but council cannot modify this in any sort of way. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Chairperson Marie Wicks if you have any questions as to how they came to that determination.
Go ahead, thank you.
Good evening. Do you have any questions?
Any questions from Ms. Wicks? Yes, Ms. Watson?
Yeah. And you didn't introduce yourself, and I just, even for our newer council people that are up and coming, like sometimes like we're used to sitting at the table, but like other people are like, wait, who's that person, who's that person? Like I didn't know who that second person was that didn't introduce themselves that sat with Ann, but just, just for the public and stuff like that, please introduce yourself.
Sure, my apologies. I'm Emily Gordon, I'm the city clerk.
And thank you, and nice to see you again.
Nice to see you too.
And Marie, I thought that was you I saw, but then I just wasn't sure because it's just like, well, why is she here? But then, now this all makes sense. My question, do you know how many council members, so in this page of city manager layouts and comparables by population, how many council members are there, do you know, or is that further in here on each of the communities that you did the comparables for?
I'm not sure those are on there, but I can say anecdotally, and they are.
They're not.
They're not on there. Anecdotally, having worked for the Michigan Municipal League, and actually Shannon Draheim was there as well as part of the commission, commented on that too. It's very, this is a relatively small council. Most have, I would say, at least 7 members. Perhaps City Manager Bellman can attest to that as well.
Nothing? Okay.
Typically, yes, 7 or more on their councils.
Awesome. I can also confirm that the average was 7.
Okay.
Through our research. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. Good to see you again.
My pleasure, and congratulations, Clerk Gordon.
Thank you.
Outstanding.
Okay, what does the council want to do, if anything?
I have a motion, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I move to deny the recommendation of the commission.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we can do that.
In this instance, the statute actually requires a resolution to be adopted, so the idea would be if this matter is going to be considered for rejection, that we prepare a resolution and bring it back at the next meeting. It will be within the 30-day requirement, so there is time to do that. So our recommendation, we did talk about this before the meeting, in this instance would be to postpone this to the next regular city council meeting and for preparation of a resolution to reject the recommendation.
Well, not to be argumentative, but I'm argumentative. Couldn't Dr. Altman's motion be that the motion is to prepare a resolution for presentation at the next council meeting, denying the recommendation of the election commission?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. That would be perfectly fine.
It's fine with me.
That's fine with me.
Okay.
I didn't hear that as the proposals. I thought it was if council didn't want to approve, that there would be a resolution about the pay increase, not denying it. So I'm confused.
I think it's the converse of that.
If I can, if they choose to deny, it's again a 2/3 majority of council by resolution. So at that point, again, this is more of a discussion if that's where you choose to go, and then we will bring forth a resolution for the denial of that. So from my research and what I've seen is that this is set this way so you're not voting for your own increase. Rather, if you're voting to deny it, you're voting to stop this increase from happening.
Did that answer your question? Mr. Jopik, say it again, please.
Yes, the question for city council under the statute is if you wish to reject the recommendation of the Compensation Commission, you would need to adopt a resolution rejecting it. By rejecting it, the city council pay would remain the same. If you choose to take no action this evening, after 30 days, the recommendation, or the decision, I should say, of the Compensation Commission would stay in place, and the increases would become effective.
So let me say it another way. If we don't do anything, the recommendation becomes the reality in 30 days, and there would be a pay increase. So in order to stop the pay increase, we have to make a motion and have a resolution denying the pay increase. Correct?
Can I ask a question?
That is correct.
Please do.
Yes.
Yeah, to the city attorney. The Chapter 6 of the city charter under 6.1A talks about resolutions. It says the word resolution as used in this charter shall mean the official action of the council in the form of a motion, which is what was made originally by Dr. Altman. Why would we need to draft anything up?
Yes, I'm familiar with that provision. My concern is that this statute very clearly identifies a resolution, and
does it
we're
define resolution?
Well, I think the city has established its own definition, perhaps, for a resolution. Arguably, it also talks separately in other provisions about a written resolution. So even if the city had a binding definition where a motion could be considered a resolution, my concern is we have a statute that applies here with respect to this, and that we conform with that statute. I don't think our city policy can change a statute, and a common view of a resolution is in writing with the words resolution attached to it, and it's given a number, and we proceed in that manner. So that is the reason for that.
That is a policy resolution.
Yes.
But we pass things by resolution every time a motion is made. And the charter provision specifically states, matters required or permitted to be done by resolution by this charter or by state or federal law as to matters pertaining to the internal affairs or concerns of city government. It's completely covered by that resolutions. This is how we've operated previously on this same issue. I can't see why we'd be changing it at this point.
Well, Mark, the city attorney's given us different advice. So you
Can I
can,
restate my motion?
excuse me, you can go accordingly. So,
Can I restate my motion?
absolutely.
All right. So my motion is to defer consideration of this matter to our next business meeting and ask the city attorney to draft a resolution denying the recommendation of the committee.
I second it. Any further discussion?
Is that adequate, Mr. City Attorney?
Yes.
I have discussion.
Yes, ma'am.
Just did some quick searching, and this is about the gender and racial ethnic wage gaps. And who, if you make, white men are at the top, so white men make the dollar. Next is Asian women who make 81 cents in comparison to that dollar. Next is white women who make 80 cents in comparison to that dollar. Next is women and all other races, 62 cents to that $1 that white men make. Next is Hispanic and Latina women, 48 cents to the dollar. And next is 46 cents for Black and African American women to the dollar. Please consider the work that has to be done on this East Lansing City Council. And, just let us know if you're thinking about just yourselves or if you're thinking about community and the extra lift that it takes to pull this off for the diverse voices that are needed at this table.
Can you give me the
that's all.
citation of the document you're reading from your
Sure. I
computer?
did a Google search, so I'm looking at images right now. This is a 2023 gender and racial/ethnic wage gaps. And so at the top.
Published by whom?
That's a good question. According to the BWWC's 2023 wage gap measurement report of Black and African American, but if you don't like that piece, again, you can do a search and you can find all the research that talks about the amount of money that white men make, the dollar to other races and genders, with myself landing at the bottom is making 46 cents to every dollar that my white male counterparts make.
Yeah, it's not that I like it or don't like it, I just wanted to know the
Thank you for asking me that.
source of the site.
Sure.
So could we have a roll call vote on the motion, please?
Councilmember Altman,
Yes.
Councilmember Meadows,
Yes.
Councilmember Watson,
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Singh,
Yes.
Mayor Brookover.
No. Okay. Do we have a motion with regard to closed session?
I have a motion, Mayor. I move to enter closed session pursuant to MCL 15.268 sub 1 sub E to consult with the city's attorneys regarding trial or settlement strategy in connection with pending litigation in Heos v. East Lansing, Ingham County Circuit Court case number 20-199-CZ, and University Place Condominium Association versus City of East Lansing, Ingham County Circuit Court case number 25-4268-CB, for the reason that an open meeting could have a detrimental financial effect on the litigating or settlement position of the city.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Altman,
Yes.
Councilmember Meadows, Councilmember Watson,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Singh,
Yep.
Mayor Brookover.
Yes. We'll adjourn for a closed session and then come back. Thank you. Okay, I'd like to bring us back into open session. We don't need a motion for this.
Need a motion to go
Okay.
into open session, Mayor.
Do we have any further motions by the council?
I have a motion, Mayor. I move to authorize the city attorneys to proceed in the manner recommended in their October 3rd, 2025 confidential and privileged attorney-client legal memorandum.
I second the motion. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Councilperson Watson?
Yes, so moved.
I second the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion to adjourn passes unanimously. Thank you,
you.
everybody.